a lot of cruelty in the way they did things in this camp. This was known as the cruelest of camps.
This camp, because of its location, was liberated very early by the Soviet Union. They came in here, and the Nazis didn't have quite enough time to destroy what you saw in Treblinka. And so, this camp is almost what it was like 70 years ago. And things are just the way it was. Plumbing is here. You even got showers above your head. By the way, these are showers. Don't be worried, these are not the gas, these are showers. But they did very interesting things. There was always experiments. They wanted to know whether a body that was wet could absorb gas more quickly. So first they tried very cold water, ice water. There are times when they tried very hot water that burned your body. They even had bathtubs with water that had lye in it. Lye. You know what lye is? What is lye? You put it on your skin, it literally peels your skin, it burns. You think you're going to get a bath. You think you're going to get a nice warm shower or something, and ice water comes down or boiling water comes down.
You know, at the end of the day, remember, this was all about efficiency. The Germans wanted to create the most efficient, most advanced, technologically advanced killing machine. And if it would be possible, because your body was either colder or a lot hotter because of the water, well, maybe you'll come to inhale and exhale the gas a lot quicker. So in other words, this was all about efficiency. You got so many people, thousands of people coming in, you needed to make sure that you could kill them as quickly as possible. And the most important thing to realize there is that who are you talking about? You're not talking about a bunch of lunatics that didn't know what they were doing, but rather you're talking about people that knew exactly what they were doing. These were the greatest scientists of the day. And yet you could be incredibly educated like they were, and still, this is what it gives you. A more efficient killing machine.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're standing in a gas chamber. But while you're in this room, I want you to see, I want you to sense, I want you to feel, I want you to smell, I want you to touch, and I want you to understand where you read about it in your books, you talked about it in your classroom, but this is it. Just look at the stains on the walls. These stains are made from the gases that were pumped in here, from the holes that you see in the ceilings. There's a peephole on this wall. The peephole was used by the Nazis to look in here and to see what was happening and how the Jews were dying and clutching at each other. This is in every gas chamber they had that. It was one of their enjoyments, their pastimes. I want you to look at the walls. I want you to look at the scratch marks. And I want you to remember them. Because you're all going off to college. And you're all, at one point or another, going to be told that this whole thing is not real. But you are now the witnesses of this place and of the Holocaust. Because I'm not going to be around forever to do what I'm doing. You're going to take my place, and Rosie's place, and Rose and Sam and Max's. You're going to lead the groups in the future, and you have to understand the importance of bringing people here to see this place firsthand. I want you to walk to the walls. I want you to touch them and see those scratch marks and imagine the mothers who were clutching their children and trying to keep them high up in the air so that they can breathe. And I want you to remember this place for the rest of your lives.
I didn't even think about anger. I'm thinking about the sadistic mentality, cruelty. And you wonder how the man mind can ruin, mind can explode, you know, and enjoy the suffering of people around at the point that they put a window so they can really look at the spectacle of these dying people.
That was really impactful. I turned around to touch the wall, and all of a sudden behind me I hear the door slam, and I started bawling. I couldn't control my crying, because at that moment I felt like I was there, like at one moment in my past life. I don't know how to explain that feeling. But it was really, it was intense.
That's the crematorium. So when gassings were done here, prisoners took the bodies on carts down this road and through the camp, so that everybody that was working here would see the bodies as they were taken to the crematorium. Just another way of humiliating the prisoners here and saying to them, this is where you're ultimately going to go.
$800,000 pairs of shoes. There was a poet that said that in Majdanek, the shoes obliterated the sun. It was so high. It was a mountain of shoes.
First time you're seeing shoes at a concentration camp. If you remember when you went into Auschwitz, you saw them behind a glass window. And many of you expressed almost like disappointment that it felt so much like a museum, that you felt like you were in such a sterile environment, didn't feel that real. You're about to go into a bunker right now that houses a lot of shoes. The difference is you're going to see them, you're going to be able to feel them, you're going to be able to smell them.
You're going to go inside, you're going to see the shoes, find a pair of shoes, stand by it, and remember, each pair of shoes represents one person who passed through these gates.
I want you to find a pair of shoes that are meaningful to you and think of who wore them.
You guys all remember 10 years old, getting your new pair of sneakers. You're so excited which ones you want to get. You're going to get the Nikes, or you're going to get the Asics or the Adidas. You're going to get something that you like. Even my daughter right now, my 3-year-old daughter, right, when it comes to wearing shoes, we go back to Boca, you see she's got these nice pink shoes now. Why? Because again, she's the little princess. She has to have pink. She won't wear different color shoes. You know, shoes are important because it's not only it helps you walk, but almost defines who you are.
You go in there and you see the shoes that are right along the cage, right along the fence. The shoes that are on top. And you're overwhelmed. And then you have to think about how many more are inside, underneath, behind. The number is staggering. Can you imagine if all those shoes were lined up along a path? And we'd have to count 800,000 pairs of shoes. 800,000. That's not fair. It's not that their lives were lost. Their lives were taken. We go in there and we're so overwhelmed by just what we can see, and it's just the surface. We don't know their names. We don't know who they are. And we never will. And it's overwhelming to think of it.
I found a shoe that looked like something I wore when I was probably around 4 years old. And I started crying because that could have been me or someone like me wearing those shoes, and they're gone. And I prayed for that girl or boy who was wearing those shoes, because no one is there now to pray for them and remember them and the life that they lived before they were killed at Majdanek.
I was more in a shock state of mind where I couldn't really grasp the magnitude of how many shoes were really there.
Hundreds of thousands of shoes all over that at one time were on the feet of babies, parents, and grandparents. As I touched some shoes, I felt as though I was touching the feet of those that perished in this tragedy. I hugged everyone else I saw that was crying, because both myself and all of my friends needed it. When we walked outside the barrack, I cried some more and joined in a huddle with Rosie and some of my new friends. We hugged and cried and listened to Rosie as she said that those shoes could have easily been hers and that she doesn't understand it. I wish that I understood, but how could anyone understand such inhumane acts? I for sure don't.
When I came here, I was afraid of the shoes in Auschwitz, but somehow the shoes were behind the glass, so it doesn't affect me. But as soon as I touched this one, you know, I just went berserk, because this is really, I feel, you know, like a person behind it. You know, I think it was one of the hardest things for me.
I just went through the barracks of shoes, and in a rational way, it is impossible to keep you calm and realize that barracks was full of shoes that might have contained shoes of my mother, my brother, my relatives on my mother's side and my father's side. And these are the shoes that are displayed there, but does one realize how many pair of shoes 6 million is, how many were destroyed and done in other places? But I am a strong believer that we must tell the story, and the youngsters that are here with us today, they're going to be the witnesses. But please, present it in a story and in a way and with emotions that will not create the same hatred that was done to us.
My grandpa was like my father figure and one of my best friends, and he died a couple of years ago, and that really hit hard. And I saw a pair of shoes that looked like a pair that he would have worn, and that kind of just got me, and I kind of imagined that, and then sort of thinking about the survivors' stories about whole families that they just lost, and the pain that just from losing my grandpa. I mean, imagining my whole family being lost.
We're going to go into a couple of the barracks here. They house between 500 and 1,000 people. 500 and 1,000 people, so you have to try to imagine that. We complain when we have a 6 o'clock wake up. This was 4 o'clock in the morning. You were woken up and you had to report outside for something called appel. It was roll call. So you took anybody that was sick in the barracks, that was dead in the barracks, had to be accounted for and brought outside. You had to line up. You had to wait until your numbers were called. If your number was missing or any number was missing, everybody waited. And if it took an hour and it was snowing and freezing, they waited. And if it took 3 hours or 4 hours, everybody waited. And if you had to go to the bathroom, you waited. And if you couldn't wait, you went in your clothes. They did a lot of needless things here. They would make people pick up rocks, boulders from one area and carry them all the way to another area. Just anything, any way they could torture people. That's what they did. There was a lot of prisoners of war, Russian prisoners of war. And the Nazis were particularly cruel to the Russian prisoners of war. And when a whole group arrived here, it was one dark evening, and they took hoses and they watered them down. And this was in the middle of the winter. They made them remove their clothes, hosed them down with ice water, and made them spend the rest of the night outdoors. In the morning, the entire troop of prisoners of war were found dead.
My father was selected on the way going by the commander's house with my whole family and placed aside. I was walking behind my mom and he grabbed my hand, risking his own life for being put into the gas chambers. The indoctrination into a camp was they took you into a room, disrobed you in the corner, had volunteers shave your hair on your body, clip your hair on your head with a number 1 clipper, then in the center with a 0 making a streak. Then you went into the showers, given a few minutes of water, then some soap that was brown in texture with lye in it, After you got your clothing, you were assigned to a barracks. Got up in the morning, out on Reveille, which is called the Appel, and this was called the Appel Square. Can you imagine all these buildings falling out? Each building had one individual that was authorized to give the count to the commander. By the time everybody is out, which might take a long time, and sometimes in bad weather, the commander decided to oversleep, or for one purpose or another to make you suffer for a little while. He would come out on a white horse, but you have to realize that the commanders of these camps were people with ill reputation. Some of them might have been taken out of prison, or somebody were known for their brutality, which means the brutality of the commander determined how we were treated in some of the camps that I was in, and I was in quite few of them. Then, in a cowardly way, would go in the back of us, because we all standing, each barracks facing the center. Then he would pick up some victims to be destroyed in front of everybody in inhumane ways, sometimes boasting that shooting or hanging is too good for you.
In 1943, big turning point in World War II. The Nazis were beginning to lose battles. There was another war. There was a war against the Jews. That was a specific war that was part of this whole effort by the Nazi regime. There were uprisings, fighting back with guns and grenades in camps, Sobibor, Treblinka, Warsaw, Bialystok, attacks in Krakow, and many other smaller ghettos. People were fighting back. The young people, you people, were fighting back. Heinrich Himmler saw that happening and he said, that's it. On November 2nd and 3rd, 1943, they brought in 100 guards from Auschwitz, in secret. They opened up the fence behind us through Field 5. They marched every single Jew in Lublin. They blared music as loud as possible, because look in the horizon, look what's out there. The city. The city's out there. And they blared that music. They brought the Jews in. They had these 100 guards plus many Ukrainian guards with them. They lined them up right in the pits where you're standing, shot them. They fell in these pits. And then in those 2 days, they murdered 18,000 Jewish brothers and sisters. 18,000 here, in this area, at other camps that were satellites of this camp. Another thousands of people, up to 42,000 people were destroyed in these 2 days. 42,000 Jews were destroyed, murdered, because the world had to be Judenrein. If anybody ever tells you the Holocaust never happened, you were here this whole week, you're standing here, but by the grace of God, you're living today and not then. When you hear somebody say that the Holocaust did not happen, you have to speak up. You have to. Just remember standing in front of these pits of horror, these murder pits. In 2 days, 42,000 of our brothers and sisters were destroyed.
Who would win the opportunity to create this crematoria, the disgusting ovens that you see behind us? And many people sent in their bids. Who could build it cheaper? Who could build it faster? Who could build industrial ovens that could burn Jewish bodies more efficiently? One German company, Toff & Sons, won the bid. Do you know why they won the bid? Do you know why they had the opportunity, the great pleasure to build these ovens? Because they claimed, we can not only build ovens that will turn Jewish bodies into ashes fastest, we can promise you that we can turn the bodies completely into ashes. When the Jews were sent to the ovens, they promised them, after 20 minutes, 6 at a time, each Jewish body will be relegated to ash. Not 1 ounce, not 1 bone left. You can complete the process so efficiently that nothing remains of the Jewish people, you win the bid. You win the bid. And so they were privileged to build all these ovens over here, because only they could promise the complete and utter extermination of the Jewish body into ash within 20 minutes with nothing left.
Right when the world figured out what was going on in these death camps and in these concentration camps, immediately the response was actually one of the first human responses during the war. Quick, whatever rations you have in your bag, take out, start feeding these people, they're starving. And that was actually incredibly dangerous, because their systems couldn't process the food. And the doctors immediately said, put them back in the concentration camp. Don't let them out, because if they wander, they're gonna end up not being able to survive. Don't give them your food. We have to build them back up slowly. Can you imagine? Captain Butler was walking up and down the lines, and he saw a small child on the side of one of the barracks who was quite simply too weak to stand in line for food that would have made him stronger. Captain Butler bent down, looking to simply pick him up and wait for the line to move forward for him. And he couldn't. All he could do was simply embrace this child and lost himself in the moment and gave him a hug. He opened his eyes, and what he saw was every single child that had been in line for soup had gotten in line for a hug. How many children, how many parents didn't get to wait in line for a hug? Their line ended here. Take a moment to think about those individuals and think about yourselves and your family.
I want to tell you a story. About 2.5 miles from here, the train to Majdanek stops. And out from the train comes a couple in their 50s, Herschel, Razel Frankenthal. Just an average couple, lived outside of Lodz. Spent years in the Warsaw Ghetto. And we know what happened in the Warsaw Ghetto. We learned about it. The starvation. Trading everything that they had for little bits of food. Their children were dispersed. They had no idea where they went. They had 4 children. And when they arrived here to this place, they were rushed over to this camp. And because of their age, they were sent to the first barrack and they were gassed. The bodies then were rolled up to this place. With their ashes, they planted a rose garden. Those 2 people were my grandparents. I never got to know them. I never got to see them. I don't know what they look like. I never got to feel their love. Spend the holidays with them. Have them kiss me, hug me, like you do with a grandchild. They didn't know that one of their children had just had a child in a slave labor camp. That was me. They didn't know they had a new grandchild.
And since the grandchild didn't know, they didn't know that they were just killed. I was named after a bubby, a great-grandmother. Then I came to this place and I saw this rose garden that they planted with the ashes of my grandparents. And then I looked out, and I saw the city where the ashes landed on the houses, the cars, the clothes, and the people out there. And what did they do? They did nothing. The ashes of our people landed over there, and no one did anything. The bodies continue to be burned here. All the Zadis and the bubbies, the little children whose shoes you saw in the barracks. Why? Why? And all I ask of you, if you're lucky enough to have a bubby or a Zadie, or a grandma or a grandpa, that's the first call you make when you get home. You call them up and you tell them that you love them and you're happy that they're alive, because they're precious. They're precious. The Jewish people have to go on. And you have to marry Jewish boys and girls. And you have to have Jewish babies for all the babies that we lost here. You have people that you don't talk to. You have uncles and aunts that you don't see. That's everybody here. You have mishpacha you don't contact anymore. Call them up. Whatever you were fighting about, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You're lucky you have family. It's a terrible place.
My emotion at the current second is that I really want to go home. And I want to go home and I want to see my grandparents, and I want to see my parents, and I want to see my sister. And it's really tough being here.
If you look behind you, you will notice where hundreds of Pulitzer Prizes are lying, hundreds of wonderful minds, hundreds of healers that could have healed our diseases, music writers, painters, artists, negotiators that could have negotiated peace. Not only they, but their offsprings that could have arisen from them.
We were by the ash pit and I saw how some of my friends who hadn't cried the entire trip just started to cry. That moment just brought us all together and we all just felt it, and it was extremely amazing. It was just amazing. And if you didn't realize how important family is to you, then please, take my word for it, because they're the most important people in your life. Where there is hatred, may we bring love. Where there is pain, may we bring healing. Where there is darkness, may we bring light. Where there is despair, may we bring hope. Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is strife, may we bring peace. Make this a better world and begin with us.
Oseh shalom imromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen.
We just spent an incredible week together. We've had many ups and downs, many life-changing experiences. And a lot of that is due to the survivors who give up their time to be with us in what has to be a very gut-wrenching experience for them to relive what they went through.
We spent a week here, and as I was seeing your faces, and I got your letters, every day I got stronger for this, and more power I got. Yeah, you guys were an inspiration. Maybe me to you or you to me, I don't know who. But I can tell you is, it was a very good week. But now I'm just going to tell you, it's a week, the whole week we were dragging you to the valleys of death. But now we're going to take you to the high of the mountains. And I said, go forth.
Let's go to Israel.
I'm really excited to go to Israel because now that we're leaving a place where they wanted to kill us, we're going to a place where we're going to be celebrating life, we're going to be celebrating Judaism.
I felt extremely proud to be Jewish and cannot wait to get to Israel.
We're so excited! We love Israel! Yay!
So I haven't been in Israel in 4 years, and I'm just really excited because I took Israel for granted always. And just after learning that, I almost didn't have a state of Israel, and it's just an amazing feeling to go there now after all that we've been through.
There's no words to describe how excited I am. My greatest loves in the world are teaching my students and being in Israel, and I get to do both of them at the same time.
I'm so excited to go to Israel. Woo! We are so excited for Israel.
So excited.
So excited.
I have never been there before, so it's really exciting.
I've been to Israel on many different occasions, but this occasion's definitely got me the most excited.
I'm going home. That's what I can say. I'm going home.
This week has been a very, very special week. It's beyond my expectations. This is my 10th time there probably, and going to Israel has always been going home.
I'm always excited to go to Israel. In fact, I make sure that when I get there, I kiss the ground. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm really happy now after this sad week to go and see the sunshine and all these young people in Israel full of enthusiasm, and I'm sure that we are going to have a beautiful week there.
going to Israel after a week in Poland is going to be really exciting just because after such a depressing time in our history, we get to learn more about the culture of Israel.
Now we're all definitely looking forward to going to Israel to a more uplifted and very spiritual time, especially because we're going to be celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut. And I'm really excited to be sharing this experience with everyone. I think we're going to have a lot more highs than lows compared to what happened in Poland.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Israel.
We got off the plane. First thing Yaakov and I did, we kissed the ground. We have never kissed the ground as hard as we did today. We're so excited to be in Israel.
One of the best experiences about coming to Israel on the March of Living is the opportunity to get to Israel with amazing brothers and sisters, 18-year-olds that have never been to Israel yet, and to kiss the ground with them and to show them everything exciting about this country, why it's our country, why it's one of the loves of our lives. It's just the best feeling in the world.
Welcome home, baby.
Yeah. And on behalf of the entire staff here in Israel, I would like to give you a very big welcome home.
I'm so happy to be in Israel after such a depressing week in Poland. I'm going to go ham this week in Israel and have a great time and gain 50 pounds on shawarma.
Coming from Poland to Israel is an amazing feeling. I love Israel so much. I'm here with all my friends. It's going to be an incredible experience.
We're really excited to be in Israel.
We've both been to Israel many times, but this time it's so much better and more exciting after going through Poland.
It's just been very overwhelming with emotion. Like Sarah and I kissed the ground when we landed because we just love Israel. Like Israel's our home.
Before the people of Qumran die, for almost 500 years, they record everything they do. They write down everything they do in scrolls, and not only that, but obviously when you're Jewish, there's one thing that goes with a Jew everywhere. The Torah. Knowledge of the Torah, Torah. And it doesn't matter how you look at it, but it's always a part of you. And the people that came down here copied the Torah as is into scrolls and took it with them. Those scrolls later were moved up to the mountains above you. And if you guys can look, you look behind me, there's caverns throughout the mountain. It's important to us as Jews because it gives us a record of our past to show us that the Bible is not something new. And all those people that say that the Jewish history was invented in the 4th century or the 10th century or Jews rewrote it again and again and again is false. And it's a fact to put in their eyes and say, excuse me, but you have no idea what you're talking about. Here's the written testimony of what I'm talking about.